All right. Welcome in, everyone. My name is P.H. Irwin, Communications Coordinator here at SAANYS, and I welcome you to another SAANYS Pro Learning session. Today is another Power Hour webinar titled Improve Your Faculty Meetings with Ian Knox. And as we begin, a reminder to please remain muted throughout the session, but feel free to use the chat throughout the session for any questions, and our presenter will get to you. And if there are any moments where he'll ask you to unmute, feel free to do that. And please be aware that this session is being recorded. And now I will turn it over to our Director of Professional Learning, Karen Bronson.
Thank you, PH. Welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here today to join us for this Power Hour, which is dedicated to the topic of the beloved and beleaguered faculty meeting. The faculty meeting, I think, is one of the most maligned administrative practices on sites that malign school administrators, the funny ones and the not so funny ones. And I think it's pretty easy to take shots at faculty meetings because we've all been to a million of them, and we know that they can be less than productive and certainly less than popular with the audience. So I know that many of us are constantly looking for ways to change that thing up a little bit and maybe get away from the one-man show or one-woman show that is really, really difficult for everyone. So to welcome Ian Knox today. Ian is a principal at Hammergrail Elementary School in Bethlehem. He's also the CASDA, is on the CASDA Principal Center Board. And Ian did a wonderful job with this topic at our conference this year. So I invited him to be here and do a power hour. And I think the title of this presentation really kind of tells us the direction we're going in. And that is not just improving faculty meetings, but going from information sharing to joint work, truly making the time useful, truly making it something that benefits the entire school community and that makes people feel like they have done something very, very worthwhile with that period of time. So I am very, very happy to have Ian here with us today. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to him. Just a reminder, please stay muted, but there'll be plenty of opportunities whenever you like to just unmute to ask a question or share a thought. So Ian, it's nice to have you here today.
Thank you, Karen, for the great introduction, and I'm really humbled to be here today. I've done some great work with SAANYS over the last couple of years, and this is just a really good opportunity for us to just information share and connect with one another. And so I'm excited to present on a topic that can feel stressful the day or leading up to your faculty meetings, and hopefully you guys can leave with some information today that feels like you can turnkey some things moving forward for the rest of the year. So thanks again. And as Karen said, I'm a K-5 principal in Bethlehem, New York, which is a little bit south of Albany, New York, the capital. And so I've been here for 5 years and a principal for 9. And I taught first grade prior to being a principal. And as you remember, if you were a teacher, you stress about your lesson plans and you wonder how they're going to go. And so I've rehearsed this with my wife several times. And I joked with Karen, hopefully it's not a flop and you guys find something that you can take away from today. I'm excited to spend some time with you. So like any faculty meeting I have, we always start with success criteria, meaning what are we going to walk away with hopefully today that feels like we understand the purpose of our time together. And so our success criteria as a group today is a couple of things, in not particular order, is understanding what joint work is, exploring the difference between common language and a shared understanding, using the FRAIR model in a realm of influence, which are tools we can use. How can we use those at faculty meetings? And beginning to form a simple theory of action as a building that we can use to inform our faculty meeting time together. So hopefully we can accomplish those things together in the next 55 minutes. I wanted to start from hearing from you. I mean, I've done a few presentations in my life, and always in person feels more authentic and real, and you can engage energy in rooms. And I really want this to be interactive today, where you can give me some feedback and we can talk to one another. So in the chat, if you could describe your faculty meetings in one word, what would that word be? So I'll give you 30 seconds or so just to put a word in the chat for a way you could describe your faculty meetings, good or bad. There we go, Sarah. Now we're starting off strong. I like that answer. We'll hopefully fix that today. Sarah Evil. Talking, stressful to make meaningful, contentious, updates about in housekeeping. Amen. I hear that. Updates, useless. I love the honesty. Complaining. Yes, Chris, we hear that sometimes. Well, I'm so happy that I get some authentic, real feedback from you guys because I think everyone has left a faculty meeting saying those words. This could have been an email, right? And I've known the feeling. I haven't had it in a few years because of what we've done with faculty meetings in my building. I've had the feeling 3 days prior to a faculty meeting thinking, what are we going to do at this faculty meeting? It's looming over my head. And people can sniff out that inauthenticity of your planning and what you're doing, and they know right away, if you're whether or not you really poured some work into the time together. So then you get the complaining, you get the lack of focus, you get the stressful to make it meaningful. And so hopefully today we can flip that for you guys. So thank you for sharing some of that. I'm curious if they don't mind unmuting. You don't have to, but if you don't mind, a few people did say things are going fairly well. Like they're educational, they're collaborative, informational. And Will, your camera's on too, so I might call you out. I'm wondering, when you say educational, like what does that look like for your faculty meetings when you say it's educational?
I saw
That,
short and succinct too. We've got to hit that one in a minute. Short and succinct. Go ahead, William.
Hi and hi everyone. Thank you. I say educational is that I'm under the philosophy that if it can be shared in an email, I'll just send an email and then I'll cancel the faculty meeting.
Yeah.
To be blunt, but each faculty meeting generally I have some sort of professional development where I have a teacher or someone present something to enhance pedagogical skills. So my last one, which was on Monday, I had my co-teachers share how they do co-teaching. The previous one before that was station rotation activities, and they modeled how it's done and things like that. So it's a way for me to gear and steer the direction of the ship without them realizing so much that that's the direction I need the building to go. So it's
Great.
my faculty meetings are purposeful.
I appreciate that. And Aaron, you said short and succinct. Is that a good thing, or how does that look? If you don't mind unmuting. If not, you maybe put it in the chat.
No, I don't mind jumping in. We have there's some contract kind of guardrails we got to stay within, so we're really forced to be right on point and really respect the time. And it's a good thing generally, but it can make trying to plan it and really get into some in-depth things a little tricky to navigate.
Gotcha.
Aaron, how short are they?
We about 25 to 30 minutes is really the max. And so we really get moving on things. We have them once a month. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of time in between there.
And that can be stressful too, because I really, I don't know, I remember, especially as a new principal, faculty meetings to me were one of the most stressful things I did because it seemed like the harder I worked to make them good, the less they were going over because I was doing it, and it was kind of the KB show. And it took me a while, but I learned that. But I know that it's valuable time. I think it's really important to just have the humans in your building in the same room at the same time to kind of have a conversation, even if it's more like a family conversation, an informal like that. I think faculty meetings are important, but once again, one reason we're here with the topic is they can really go askew and really they have a bad rap. Let's put it that way.
For sure.
Yep.
Let's think about like what it feels like. So if you had a faculty meeting that was your best faculty meeting, you left feeling really invigorated and felt like people were really buying into the content. What made it work, I guess, and what were people doing? So just take a second to put a few words in the chat. What were people doing during that time, and kind of what made it work? Yeah, time to hear and learn from colleagues. Man, I love that. Last year we did something called Picha Kucha, where it's a very informal presentation process where every teacher had a minute to go up and talk about one thing that really is going really well for them in their classroom. And it's just having that time to learn from their colleagues. It's so isolating sometimes, right? So having that time to share and learn from colleagues is so important. Collaborating, including a culture building activity, definitely clear targets and goals relative to the classroom. Agreed, Chris. So these are all really great things. I'm glad you guys are seeing these. So I've been fortunate enough the last couple of years to really flip my faculty meetings. And one of the reasons I kind of leveraged this work is my collaboration with a guy named Peter DeWitt. Peter DeWitt. I'm not sure if you guys know who Peter is, but Peter was a principal. He's now, he's an author and consultant worldwide, and really has worked heavily with John Hattie on Hattie's work. And Peter's been a mentor of mine for a few years, and he's really had me rethink how do I look at and measure impact, and how do I know that we're going to have an impact on the students that we serve. And a couple years ago, Peter gave me this little quiz on ranking dimensions of things we do, leadership moves we make. And this is based on Vivian Robinson's work. If you're not familiar with Vivian Robinson, she kind of did a meta-analysis of many studies and looking at impact of these 5 leadership moves. I'd love for you, and just so I'll show you the rankings after this. We won't spend too much time on this, but I want to kind of ground ourselves in why this is important. Any effect size over 0.4 is a really great effect size in a study. And so anything above a 0.4 is great. I'll show you the effect sizes in a second. So once you rank these, one being the most impactful thing that we can do, 5 being the least impactful. And if you see it says A, B, C, D, E, so feel free to rank it by the letter. So if you think A is the most impactful, strategic resourcing, you just list A first. You don't need to put it in the chat. You can just write it down next to your computer. So take like 30 seconds, minute to look at these 5 dimensions and rank them from most impactful 1 to least impactful 5. So take a second and do that. And no Google searching or chat GPTing. So strategic resourcing, promoting and participating in teacher learning and development, establishing goals and expectations, ensuring an orderly and supportive environment, or in planning, coordinating, evaluating teaching and curriculum. I'll give you like 10 more-ish seconds to do this. Okay, the big reveal. So based on Vivian Robinson's work, she identified that promoting and participating in teacher learning and development has a 0.87 effect size on student achievement, which is a huge number, telling us that promoting and participating in teacher learning and development is something we really need to lean into. You don't need to put it in the chat, but I'm wondering if you're surprised by some of these. A lot of people usually choose like establishing goals and expectations, or planning and coordinating, even looking at resourcing. Like, how do we do things unless we have the resources? But truly looking at how we participate in teacher learning can have the most impact on our students. I want to be clear too, her work makes a very a clear distinction between, this is not about sending teachers to PD. Now PD is important, it has a place, but it's not about sending students or teachers to a workshop or to a professional development at the Hilton locally. This is about you and them working together collaboratively to learn and to grow and develop together. That has a huge effect size. So once I learned this, I started reading the research with Peter. It really made me think about the time we have together. Our time is very short together. We don't have a lot of time. We have an hour a month for a faculty meeting. We do have some grade level meeting time, another continuous improvement, but our faculty meeting is once a month for an hour. We have to make that time count. So I want to talk a little bit about how I'm making it count, and hopefully some things will resonate with you. Before we dive into the kind of what we do and how we do it, I do want to bring this to your attention as it's so paramount to the work that I'm doing in my class or my building right now. Collective leader efficacy, you probably heard of collective teacher efficacy, which from John Hattie's research is the #1 indicator of student success. But Peter DeWitt defines collective leader efficacy as a shared belief among a school's leadership team that they can and will improve the learning conditions and outcomes for all students by working together. And there's three things that have to be in place in order for those things to happen. One, clarity. Do your staff members and faculty members understand the strategies, the successes, and the intended outcomes of the things you're doing? Do they know how they're going to measure whether or not it's working or not? Those things are important. Coherence. How does this work connect to a mission, complement existing work, or produce the needed outcome? I'm sure your district has strategic goals. I'm sure you have goals as a building. Do the things that you're leaning into at your faculty meeting align with those things? And if they don't, if they're not coherent, they're not going to buy into it. They're going to feel like it's just piecemealed. You're looking up something online prior to a meeting. But if you make it meaningful for them, it's coherent, they'll really buy into it. The last one, and the one I want to spend a little bit more time on, is the idea of trust. Now, I think we've said this out loud to people before: you can trust me, or I think my staff trusts me. And anytime I hear that word from either an administrative intern, a principal I'm working with, even my teachers, I ask them, what does that look like? How do you build trust with people? And there's an incredible study by the Harvard Business Review about the idea of trust and how we lean into trust. And it has three core drivers drives trust. It's empathy, authenticity, and logic. Those three things are critical in building trust with your faculty and staff and your school community at whole. But when it relates to faculty meetings, I want to lean on these things, three things. So let me define those three words for you. And what I want you to do in the chat is I want you to identify a strength from those three. Which one's really your strength, and which one's a wobble? Which one do you really feel like you're wobbling on a little bit that you can lean into? That's the one you need to focus on. So let's talk about authenticity. Are people experiencing the authentic you? Are you someone else all the time, and then at a faculty meeting you're up there juggling, trying to be someone you're not? People want to experience the real you, the vulnerable you, the person who needs to lean on colleagues because you don't have all the capacity. How could you as a building principal? But you have to be authentic. I don't pretend to be an expert on foundations or our new curriculum bookworms and ELA. I'm not an expert. So we have to be authentic to what we know and how we do it. Our logic. Do they have faith in your judgment and your competence? It's a big one. One I probably lean into the most to make sure that people feel like my judgment's really sound when I'm making decisions. And empathy. People feel that you care about them, care about their time, care about the things they want to learn and grow in. Those are all things we have to have. So these core drivers are essential in building trust. And you can't do the work that we're going to talk about in a few minutes unless we have these things in place. Trust needs to be in place. Coherence and clarity are definitely really important, but I feel strongly that trust is where we need to be. So in the chat, if you can just put a S maybe, and the word that you feel like is your strength, and then maybe a wobble. The article Frey and Morris wrote about trust essentially says you need to lean into your wobble. The wobble is the one you really need to be concerned with. We all have strengths and we know we can lean into them all the time, but what's your wobble? So I think the wobble is one we really want to focus on today. But think of a strength and a wobble for yourself with authenticity, empathy, and logic. So go ahead and take a minute or so and think about that, and then throw it in the chat, and Karen and I can go from there. Karen, feel free to see if there's any patterns or trends. And I'm seeing, and I wonder if anyone can unmute and just share. If they put their wobble as authenticity, where does that show up for you, I guess? Where do you feel like you're not being your authentic self? And if you feel like you'd want to unmute and share, I'd love to hear your thoughts on where you're feeling like you can't be your authentic self at school. Or put in the chat if you don't want to unmute.
It looks like empathy and authenticity are the most popular S's.
Yep. All right. Doesn't sound like anyone wants to talk about their wobble and authenticity. How about a wobble?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Karen.
Oh, sorry. A lot of W's identify logic.
I unmuted. I would say my wobble is because it's mostly based on I was in the secondary world for 20 years and I became an elementary principal. So I transitioned from that world. And so I think even though I have a pretty strong curriculum background in general, I think it's hard for people still to see me as a curriculum leader, instructional leader, because when you come from a different world, they may not believe that that I understand what they're going through, because I was not a teacher at the elementary level. I was a teacher at the secondary level. So I think that's where it falters a lot for me personally. And I think I just in general am an empathetic person, but what I will say is that I sometimes feel that that's sometimes a wobble for me because I'm almost too empathetic. Like it's a strength, and I know that
Sure.
That people know that I care about them, but I also have to temper how empathetic I am, because sometimes you can get overwhelmed by, you're taking in all the things from all the people, and you have to balance that. So I have to try to purposely and intentionally not be less empathetic, but just try to not soak it all in because it could be overwhelming.
Definitely, you got to take care of yourself too, right? You can't be
Yeah.
inundated with all of that. And I think there's a good argument, and in the article it does talk about that we can be overly empathetic, right? We can acknowledge someone that something's hard for someone, right? But at some point we need to be logical and move and try to problem solve, right? I think that shows up a lot in behaviors when we see these behaviors happening in kindergarten and first grade. We can be empathetic that that's hard, but we can't be mired in that all day. We have to now problem solve and try to move towards a solution or something that's going to work. And that's where logic really comes in. You can kind of shift gears. Okay, I can be empathetic. Now we're going to shift gears to problem solving and making some decisions that move us forward. So it's good you recognize that, Kristen. I appreciate you sharing. Anything else, Karen, you're seeing that's worth mentioning?
Hi, this is Amy Wilcox from Erie One Bosse's. I just wanted to add that I think my strength is authenticity, because I'm like, you're gonna get what I am. Like I'm very kind of like who I am to everybody. I don't there's no smoke and mirrors. And I think my wobble is empathy because of like my work ethic towards my job. And when I was in the classroom and now a leader, I'm just like, let's all show up and let's work together and do your job. Right. So sometimes I need to be more perhaps understanding. But and my lack of empathy, I think, is a little bit more internal. Like I don't show it, but that definitely is something I need to work on.
Sure. I appreciate you sharing, Amy.
To Amy's point, I think that part of it too is perception. I think that I'm an empathetic person. I said similarly to you, Amy, authenticity and logic are my two strengths. I think people perceive that I'm not an empathetic person because it is kind of solution based. Let's get to the problem. Let's make a solution. And I do want to hear, we can stare down the problem for a little while. However, we need to get to a solution. And I think that sometimes it's hard for people to trust that you do think that you care. Because you're really trying to get to that logic and that authenticity. You're always going to get me, but I'm also going to tell it like it is.
Sure. Yeah, not to go, we can go down the rabbit hole of empathy and logic and authenticity probably for the next half hour. And I want to honor that comment, though. because or your empathy can show up in different ways. It doesn't have to necessarily be in that moment, but if your people know that you have it, sometimes it's okay to skip that step, right, and move towards that logic and get that problem solved. So I appreciate you sharing that. This is important, and in fact, I'm going to follow up with all of you after this, and I'll share the article with you. It's an incredible article, and really is something. This triangle hangs outside my office door. It's something I lean into to ensure that I'm being my authentic self, I'm showing empathy, and I'm being logical about the decisions I'm making. So let's talk about this work, because the springtime is coming. It might not feel like it outside, but it is. And if you're like me in March and April, that's time to start thinking about next year, right? Yeah, we're wrapping up a year. It's probably the hardest part of the year for me anyway, because we're finishing a year, but you're also thinking about what's next for our building, for our district, and we're really making some plans for next year. So how do we do that? Well, we can sit in isolation and think about our buildings and think about what we need. We can look at test scores and make determinations about instructional shifts we need to make and changing grade level teams, and we can do all those things. Or we can embark on some joint work together, lean into the coherence and clarity that I talked about earlier, and really have some goals for our building. And this is what I do each and every year, and we'll embark on this as a faculty in March and April. So the first thing we have to do is we have to identify a problem of practice. What is a problem of practice? Well, it's something actionable and measurable that we can commit to as a building. We'll talk more about how broad those can be sometimes and how specific they can be. We have to kind of boil them down to make sense of them so it resonates through your whole building. As a faculty, and I'm going to show you something in a second about how we do this, but as a faculty, what are we seeing and how do we want to change it, right? It's that actionable step. We have to have a solution about how we're going to measure it and change it. So it's really creating a theory of action. If we do this, then hopefully this will happen. And there's an incredible placemat that I use, and I'm going to just focus on this one, the problem of practice priority. I will share this placemat with you after we're done today, and you can look at it and reflect on it. But what I think is important for us to look at today is this problem of practice section. So essentially what this section says is, what are the data and evidence telling you about the importance or the improvements you should be making? You have to have some tangible things to tell you why you need to improve things, right? So as a faculty each spring, we get together, we look at all the different types of data. We don't just look at our iReady data or our DIBELS data. We look at demographic data. We look at our students, our strategic goals in our district are serving our students who are economically disadvantaged and our students with IEPs. Are we serving them? How are they doing? So we really have to look at all data points, longitudinal, demographic, and we have to make sure that we're making some instructional choice or some choices for our building that make sense and align. So what we do is we meet as a faculty at a faculty meeting, and we break into groups, and we start brainstorming some things that we want to maybe focus on for the next year. Okay, so let me talk about what we're focusing on this year and how it looked last year. So as a group, we broke into groups and we all identified some things we want to really dig into for this year. And a lot of things came up, like math fact fluency was a big one for third and fourth grade, right? They really thought students didn't know their math facts. We had a lot of our K1 kids, the phonemic awareness and their phonics and their decoding was lacking. They wanted to work on that. Fifth grade, executive functioning skills. Kids couldn't transition. They couldn't pack up by themselves. They couldn't follow multi-step directions, right? So there's all these different variables are coming in at that meeting. So how are you as a principal supposed to take all that information, math facts, executive functioning, phonics, and develop a goal for your school? I mean, they all don't align, right? So as a principal, you need to be the guiding ship a little bit and think to yourself, what are some common themes in this, right? What can we kind of boil all these things down to really identify what the problem of practice is? And what we did is we did that work, and together we decided, because let me back up a little bit. We spent some time talking about Hattie's research and collective teacher efficacy being a huge impact of student achievement. We decided we could boil this all down if we clearly defined and improved our collaborative teacher teams, meaning grade level teams. You call them what you want, but we call them collaborative teacher time or collaborative teacher teams. If we could really hone in on tightening those up and having meaningful time together with our grade level teams during their prep periods, during the day, during department meetings, then those things can take care of each other because we're looking at student data, we're thinking about students in a different way, and it's not just a narrow focus of a broad math fact fluency. That's a fine goal if you want to do that. But as a building, we decided we're going to dig into collaborative teacher teams, and we are going to ensure that it's a big focus for us this year, and it is. But how do you do that? If I ask Christine, Paul, Chris, Karen, Sarah, Sal, Jim, what a collaborative teacher team is, I guarantee you'd all give me somewhat of a different answer. And this is where the Frere model comes in. We'll talk about the Frere model in a second. In education, we have so many acronyms, so much jargon language. There's never a shared understanding. There's so much common language, always. If I said tier one to you, or collaboration, or differentiation, or MTSS, or small group blocks, I guarantee all 30 of us are going to give somewhat of a slight different definition of what that looks like. And that's a problem. If we don't have a shared understanding of a goal we have as a building or something we're working towards, we're doomed to fail. So the first order of business is developing that problem of practice, collaborative teacher teams. But what is that? Because my first grade team might think of it's a lot different than my fifth grade team, who doesn't collaborate that well. So we have to spend time developing a shared understanding. And DeWitt and Nelson say shared understanding is developed through trust, clarity, and coherence, which we talked about, ensuring that all stakeholders, individually and collectively, align their actions for meaningful student outcomes. So we're going to do that today. We're going to use something called the Frere model to develop a shared understanding of collaborative teacher teams. This is what the Frere model looks like. And I'll, again, share a template out with you that will look much different than this. This is just looking like this for the presentation. So essentially what the Frere model looks like is you have the word definition, evidence, examples, and non-examples. In the middle, you'll put the topic: collaborative teacher teams, differentiation, MTSS, faculty meetings. Frankly, you could probably define that with your group. I want you to take like 2 to 3 minutes, not a ton of time because it's already 4:33. I want you to define what a collaborative teacher team is. I want you to write down some evidence, basically saying, how do I know that it's effective time, or how do we measure if meeting together is going to be effective or not? I want you to write down some examples of what a really positive outcome of a collaborative teacher team time would look like. So what are some examples of that? And the most important thing, and I want you to stress this with your faculty and staff, is that the non-examples are the sweet spot. Those are the collective things we're going to agree are not collaborative teacher time. But it's not going to go over well if Ian Knox stands up there and says, this is not an example of your time together. What are you doing? We collectively need to come together, develop a shared understanding of these things. So again, take a few minutes, define a collaborative teacher team, write some evidence of how you know it's going to have an impact or how it's having an impact. What are some examples of that time together? And what are some non-examples? So I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And if someone wants to share, I would appreciate that. So go ahead.
So Ian, while people are commenting, let's just recap the practice that you put into place in your faculty meetings up to this point. So if I'm understanding it correctly, you had your faculty identify things they considered to be problems of practice, correct?
Correct.
And they identified pretty specific things like math facts, and other things that are very kind of clearly defined nuggets, let's say, right?
Correct.
And then you came back together with them and thought about how these specific examples of problems of practice could fit under one kind of goal umbrella, like what could serve and help all those areas,
Correct.
right?
Yeah. Glad you asked that, Karen. So yes, I took all the information back. I collected all the sheets. I
Yep.
synthesized it, and I thought to myself, you know what would really fall under the umbrella of all this? It's working together collectively as a grade level team, because
Yes.
it felt very overwhelming to try to address all of those things. So yes, and I came back to the faculty meeting and said, here's how I think we can attack this by committing to reshaping our collaborative teacher time together.
Yes. So that's good, because if I'm a faculty member and I'm the one who wrote down math facts or one of the other specific ones, I don't feel like one was or two were picked, but not mine.
Correct.
I'm feeling more like, okay, this is going to be the model. By getting better at our collaborative grade level teams, we're going to be able to address all of these specific issues and really kind of work at specific problems of practice like the ones that were identified. So it kind of it pulled it all together for people. And then
Correct.
did you let people feel this is kind of our goal for the year? In our faculty meetings, we're going to be exploring what will make our collaborative teams better.
Correct.
Okay. So that's really identified at this point, probably earlier in the school year. And then you're giving them resources like the FRAIR model. I think we've seen the FRAIR model used for other things, right? Academic vocabulary, etc.
Yep.
Right. It's a good model. I never thought of it to be used in this way. And I think everybody heard Ian say the non-examples are the sweet spot. That's really true, because when you shared with me the finished product of the work that your faculty did to really identify what is a collaborative team, what is it, and what isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's those what isn't it, what doesn't it look like, the real nitty-gritty specifics that they came up with that really resonate. So this is a great model, and I had, the privilege of seeing kind of the finished product, and I was just so impressed by it. I've already shared it with my mentees.
That's awesome. And I'll share it with all of you too. In a few slides, I'll share it, look what the final product looks like, and you can share it with your faculty. So is there anyone brave enough to kind of just share, how about like a definition and a non-example of it? Maybe we'll just start there just for the sake of time. So definition of collaborative teacher teams and maybe a non-example, either unmute or in the chat.
I unmuted, so I don't mind sharing. So I wrote down, I'm a principal of an elementary school as well. So a definition of collaborative teacher team, off the top of my head, teachers working together with a common goal where they each share ideas and best practices that would support the common goal.
Great.
And
how about non-example?
Non-examples, not participating, arguing, complaining.
Good. So think about that. If Christine walked into her faculty meeting and said, well, today we're going to talk about collaborative teacher teams. This is what it isn't, and this is what it is. This is the definition of it. It's not going to feel very good for people to hear that, right? We can joke now, but that's why it's so important to do the FRAIR model, because it gives them ownership over these shared agreements that we have. So thanks for sharing. I appreciate that.
I think we're understanding the difference between you as the principal saying complaining is not what this looks like,
Exactly.
right? And getting your teachers to say complaining is not what this looks like. That's all the difference in the world, right?
Yeah. Ian, is your idea that we would do this exact activity with the staff or no?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah,
it's an example of one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
This is, I guess, developing this goal as a building takes months. Like, it's faculty meeting after faculty meeting, but it's predictable. They know what to expect. It's ongoing work, which I'll share a timeline in a second that I share with them to make sure they know where we're going with it. And it just really leans into that authenticity piece and clarity. Like, they know what we're doing and where we're going and why we're going there, because they decided this is a problem of practice we want to lean into, right? So it's just very, very organic. It doesn't feel forced. I don't have to be a fake person, right? I can be who I am. And it's just a really great way of leading your faculty meetings. So, for the sake of time, Karen, if you want to, should I move on, or should I have one more person share? What do you think?
Whatever you decide is fine.
Okay, move on, because I want to share some resources with you and also talk about something called the realm of concern, which sounds very daunting and scary, and it's actually not. This is a really important exercise. And again, Christine, this is a faculty meeting. The realm of concern is literally took me a faculty meeting. Okay, because always you're going to have naysayers. We talk about collaborative teacher teams, right? People say they don't have time in their day. They can't. They have to plan. They have to make copies. They have parent phone calls. I agree. Those things are real. They exist. So what we did as a faculty, we drew this bullseye on big pieces of paper. They had Post-it notes, and they write all the concerns they have about being able to do this. Because we need to know, like, what are the barriers to you doing this? And all the things come up, right? Like I just listed. You know the things that come up. So those are the concerns. Okay. But we have to decide as a faculty, what are the things we have influence over? I don't have influence over their contract. I don't have influence over the school day. I have limited influence over the curriculum. I mean, they have teacher autonomy. We have a cabinet structure that decides the curriculum in our district. They have a curriculum they have to teach. There has to be things that we can influence. Okay, can you give up one prep period a week to commit to meeting your grade level team for 20 minutes? You have that influence. You could do that. Could you collectively make copies for each other? Maybe every other week you switch, right? And someone takes turns. Sure. Could you tell a parent you can't talk during your prep? I'm sorry, you have a meeting, and it's okay to say that tomorrow I can meet you. Right? There's things we can have influence over, but we handcuff ourselves all the time and say it's impossible. I don't have time. I'm too stretched. I'm too stressed. But again, Christine, this is not me telling my faculty you need to find a way to make this work. This is a collective effort where they're moving Post-it notes into the middle. I'm not telling them what they have influence over. They're telling me what they have influence over. So this is a really good activity to get them to feel like it is doable. It is manageable because we do have influence over certain parts of our day that we can commit to. So I'd really encourage you to use this activity at some point. It doesn't have to be for this specific, if you're goal setting a problem in practice. We have a lot of times where we have attendance issues, right, in our school. Everyone does. In elementary, if you're an elementary folk, kids don't have a lot of autonomy on whether or not they come to school or not. Usually it's the parent, right? We have to really work with the parents. We did this with attendance a year and a half ago and just said, what do we have control over? What can we influence to get the child here? We can't just blame parents for not sending their kids to school. There has to be something we can have influence over. It's just a really great reflective tool saying all these things are concerns and we can't change them. Let's take a minute to pause and see what we can move into the middle and what can we make an actionable step. So I'd really encourage you to use this model once you decide what your problem of practice is, what you're defining, because everyone's going to feel a little bit overwhelmed. Can I commit to every week meeting with my teacher team? They might feel like they can't, but this kind of alleviates that, not that doubt. I don't want to say it's doubt, but it's just trepidation because teachers are freaking stretched so thin. So that's why it's important to do that work together. So again, the realm of influence is really important. Okay, I want to share a few resources with you because you might be saying to yourself, well, how am I going to get important information disseminated to my faculty and staff? Because let's face it, there are things we need to share with them. I have a really hard, fast rule that emails do not come out from me Monday through Thursday, unless it's really important and I have to get in touch with someone or there's something that's happening. But general information is not being shared on email. I just think they're inundated, their mailboxes are full. I shudder sometimes seeing how many unread emails some people have on their email. We don't need to add to that. So I do something called Popcorn Friday. Basically, it's like what's popping. It's kind of a corny thing, but that's my thing. And every week, I get up very early. I go to the gym at 5 a.m. So on Fridays, I'm up really early. And I am working on making sure Popcorn Friday is all set. If you see Popcorn Friday now, Karen, I switched the tabs. Can you see the document?
Yes.
Okay, you can see this Google Doc I'm sharing?
Yes, yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so this is a running document for the entire school year. Started in September, and last year's Popcorn Friday is at the bottom, the archive. And all this is things that they need to be privy to, information that really doesn't need to be in an email. It's things like bookworms training, a newsletter. We had Model Schools catalog come out, field trips. We want to make sure field trips are being aware of that. An Ed article I wrote, I put it in here for them to read. We are having a Super Bowl lunch on Friday, making sure they remember that. We had a SABR screening, which is an SEL screening, so a reminder for that. This is a repository of all the information they're ever going to need to know and want to know, and they can reference it always. It's a living document. It's always moving, and I'm adding to it. My secretary has access to it, so she'll add things occasionally to it. I always try to write something reflective about the week, maybe give a shout out to a teacher, something that went really well. But also it's housekeeping stuff, just mumbo jumbo that they don't need to be inundated in an email for. And certainly you do not need to be spending your faculty meeting time talking about SABR screening. Like, talk about people thinking this could be an email. It could be, it really should be. But this is a document that they can reference, they go to. It'll be a Tuesday afternoon and someone will be on this because they're like, oh, what did Ian say about, I don't know, let's see what's down here, winter concerts. Okay, we have to sign up for a winter concert I'm going to. Which time am I going to go? Like, it's all here for them. They don't have to search their inboxes. They know it's predictable. Every Friday morning at 4:42, I send it out and they know where it is. So that can alleviate all that pressure of spending faculty meetings talking about things you don't need to talk about, because that time is precious and important. So I really encourage you, if you do already, good for you. And if you don't do something like this, it's been so helpful to me. I've been doing this for 5 years and they live by it. Every Friday they know they're going to get this from me. I also include on the top of this really important link hubs. So we have like a link hub for our school. So like how to access report cards and what's the MTSS process. We have our K2 instructional link hub with all resources for K2 resources. We have a special education dashboard. We have a math quick access link here. We do a togetherness award every month. So the togetherness tracker is here for teachers. So all these resources that they might have to bookmark, they might have to save in a drive, it just gets really cumbersome for them to find it. So if I can put it in a place where it's easy to find, they know where it is, it just makes their lives so much easier. And so, again, happy to help you kind of organize that and think through that. But it's really been a game changer for me in terms of communication. And it's freed up all that time at faculty meetings to not have to do it. So that's one resource I wanted to share and make sure that you have. The other thing I wanted to share with you is what the finished document looks like when we do the shared understanding work together. And I want to make sure that you can see this document. Just make sure it's here. So this is our document that we use. I have two big topics defined on here. Like I said, collaborative teacher teams is here, and differentiation is something we've leaned into too, because we see a lot of, putting kids on Chromebooks on their pathway in IXL is not differentiation. It certainly could be a small group block, right? But not what we want to see necessarily as a technology for a differentiation. But collaborative teacher teams is here. We have the definition of it, right? Clearly defined collectively. We have the evidence of impact collectively agreed upon. We have the examples of what it is, which is like conversations, creating shared goals, developing renewing action plans, looking at data together, checking in with your special area teachers is a big one. We want to make sure we promote that. And then our non-examples, like we're not doing emails all week to try to schedule something. We're not gossiping and venting about kids during that time. We're not having conversations that are unrelated, like who's going on a field trip or what are you doing this weekend. This is time where we're talking about students, instructional moves we can make, sharing resources. And again, I didn't tell them to do this, right? This is work that just came out of that work that we did collectively together. At any time, and listen, I am not one of those principals who's doing walkthroughs and making huge comments on people. But if I walk into a classroom or I walk into some collaborative teacher time and teachers are not even there, maybe two of them aren't there, one is, or they're talking about what field trip they want to go in, I'm not saying to them, hey guys, we agreed upon this. But it's a good reset for everyone, right? We agreed on these things. So let's make sure we're using the best use of our time when we're together. So again, just a good way to kind of be authentic to myself. We did this work together. Let's make sure we focus on those things together. This is the timeline. Again, I just pasted it in here. It's not the best aesthetically looking thing, but as last year, as we did this work, I shared out a kind of a timeline of where we were and where we're going. And again, it just creates that being coherent and clear, and that clarity that they really need. So I would encourage you, if you are thinking about doing something like this, you're really mapping out like when you're doing it, how you're doing it, and be very transparent about like where we're headed, so people kind of know what to expect. Other thing I wanted to show you is, and this is not a plug for me at all, but I think something that's really important to me is the community that we have right now, the 31 people we have. Leadership can be as isolating as we want it to be, right? You all decided to get here today at 4 o'clock. I'd rather sometimes I want to be in my sweatpants right now by my fire. It's cold. I'm so cold, but you all chose to come, and we have to like commit to like not just meeting today for an hour, but to extend this to further relationships with one another. We're all from across the state. We all have really hard jobs. We have to just continuously use this as leverage to connect with one another. It's so important. I'm a contributor to Ed Weekly. I've written some articles I'm really proud of, but I'm doing it not because I want notoriety or clout or anything. It's because I really want to just have people I can connect with. And so I really encourage you to reach out to me after this and connect further. I think it's so important. I'd always also encourage you to look for Vanguard SAANYS submissions to come out. I'm on the Vanguard editorial board, and Vanguard's an incredible publication, if you haven't seen it, that SAANYS puts out. And they have really great topics that they're asking for submissions for. And if you see that come through your email, don't ignore it, because we need to hear from you and hear about the good things that are happening in your building. So I would encourage you to do that. And you see the Facebook and Instagram thing. I made a New Year's resolution, and it's cheesy, and I don't really care. But people add me all the time on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I never hear from them ever again. It's like this weird reason they want to be friends, but then we're not friends. And so my goal for this year, and I've met with 8 people so far since the new year on a Google Meet for a half hour. If someone friend requests me on LinkedIn or Facebook, I just reach out to them and say, hey, man, I have a New Year's resolution. I want to connect with like-minded individuals who are educators. I have some time next week for a Google Meet. If you want to catch up, let me know. And people just take me up on it. And I've connected with people in California who work for the Khan Academy, a consultant in New Jersey. Him and I talked for an hour last week. And it's just fulfilling, right? It feels good. But we have to like purposely put ourselves out there in positions where we can connect with people who make us feel like our efficacy as leaders is real. Like our job is really isolating and hard, but we have to really be proactive with connecting with people. So I would encourage you to do that. Like there's people on this call right now, like look up where Kristen Shaw is a principal and reach out to her. Like she's here, she obviously wants to learn. And I think we have to be purposeful though with those connections. And so I challenge you, if someone friends you on Facebook and LinkedIn, as long as they don't look like they're from some country that maybe they're not real, but if they have like educational consultant in their name or principal leader, send them a message and just, hey, you want to connect for 15, 20 minutes? You don't know how much you need it until you get it. And when you get it, it feels really good. And last plug is this presentation is here linked in a QR code, so you can scan it if you want. And my email is there on purpose. And I want to tell you one quick anecdote before I can turn it over to Karen. When Peter DeWitt became my mentor 2 years ago, I mean, Peter doesn't need me. I mean, Peter is a world-renowned speaker, author. He's published 11 books. But I proactively went out of my way to talk to him because he put his email on his slide at the end. And I thought, I'll email him. He probably won't get back to me. Within minutes, he got back to me. It was in my office the next day. He lives locally. And we spent an hour together. So he authentically put his email there and he meant it. And I'm putting my email there authentically to say, reach out to me. I'd love to connect with you. An hour is hard to know who I am as a person. Hopefully you got some of that today. But I really put my email there because I want you to utilize it and use it. I'm not just putting it there for a placeholder. If you feel like something connected with you, or you had questions about something, or you wanted to try something this spring and you wanted to run it by me, I'm not an expert, but certainly I've lived it. I'm happy to spend some time with you. So please reach out to me if anything resonated with you, or if you totally disagree with me. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. So with that, that's my spiel on improving your faculty meetings. And I'll kind of just toss it over to Karen. If there's any follow-up questions or anything else, feel free to take it from here, Karen.
Ian, I
Thank you
didn't
so
actually
much.
see that. I didn't see the QR code or email.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if other people are seeing the screen, but I'm not seeing the shared screen.
I was gonna ask Ian too if he could put his email up in the chat.
Sure. How about now?
Okay. I can see the cue. I can see it now.
There it is.
All right, cool.
Paul can see it. Okay. Um, Ian, thank you. Do you do a lot of work too around scheduling, elementary scheduling? I thought
Yeah,
I'd done an article for Vanguard. We might have to have you back on that topic. We had mastering the master schedule for secondary a couple of weeks ago, but honing in on elementary schedules will be something that we'd like to look more closely at too.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's important. It's important work that's coming down the pike in a few months. So
Sure is. It sure is. You know, what struck me about this work that he did in his faculty meetings, that his faculty did, is kind of the simplicity of it, really, because you take kind of a buzzword that's a really important buzzword in your building. Maybe the word is differentiation. How much misunderstanding, tension, and you name it, is there around the word differentiation in terms of what it is and how we're supposed to do it, whether we're doing it effectively or not. And on the chart that Ian showed to us, they basically took that important but problematic buzzword, differentiation. Collaborative teams is another one that we looked at the example for, and broke it down in the FRAIR model with a definition, evidence of impact, examples, and non-examples. So faculty actually agreed upon and wrote what differentiation should and shouldn't look like in their building. They authored that. And that is a really powerful thing. I think it's much more powerful than a lot of other strategies to try to implement differentiation more effectively. Just having your faculty really reflect on it and come to a common understanding that they buy into about specifically what it looks like in classrooms and what it doesn't. So maybe as we kind of wrap up, you can think of buzzwords in your school or building that are big, important ones that people struggle with. I know restorative practice, in secondary, especially in middle and high school. We're supposed to be doing restorative practice. Well, what is it? What does it look like? How do we define it? What are some indicators that it's happening and non-indicators? And having those conversations together rather than having the restorative practice or the differentiation expert tell you what it looks like and what it doesn't. That's where the difference is.
yeah, if
In
I could
terms of
piggyback on
the
that one,
buy-in you
Karen,
get.
we just did the FAIR model 2 weeks ago to define with our counseling team as a district. I'm on a committee, and we defined home visits. This wasn't like ongoing work.
Yes,
We had to ground ourselves in like what is the purpose of a home visit and what is it
yes,
not. And so this FAIR model can be used anytime. It doesn't have to be used during
yes.
joint work, but it really can help people ground themselves in what something is and isn't. It's really powerful.
It can, and it doesn't have to be a big topic. It can be discipline referrals, okay? Let's reflect on discipline referrals. If the referral system and process in our building is a little bit or a lot out of control, let's really study that in our faculty meetings. What are they for? How should they be written and how should they not be written? When should they be written? When should they not be written? Come to a common understanding, a common document on something that really that people kind of struggle with in a building. Because like you said, there are so many of these buzzwords and so many of them, and they're so important. And yet we never really take enough time to sit down and reflect on what does it really mean? And more importantly, what does it really look like and not look like? So this was great. I think you gave us a lot to think about. And I just really appreciate you being here today. And I know